stick with us. It's probably not going to be that interesting musically, as it's more of a demo. So the fastest way to get set up is to drop MIDIseq in on a MIDI channel. We've already done that, so we can skip that. And then also dropping a drum rack after that. I'm going to go with a 606 kit. Pretty sure that's part of the core library. Everyone should have it. So I'm going to take out the stuff we don't need to see. And the way it's set up is that from channel 1 is going to correspond to C1 by default. Obviously, you can change that. The way you would change that is over here in the note transpose section. And if I change it, you can see down here the little indicator. So if C1's the default, we're going to run with the defaults. This whole section, I don't actually think you need to mess with, especially at the start. Of course, for full functionality, you should go in there. But if you're just trying to get basic sequencing done, no need to go in there. So yeah, let's put some triggers in. Having just said that, I don't feel like putting in 32 steps worth of trigs, so I am going to change the last trig setting here to 16. That just applies to this channel, so all the other channels will still be running to 32. Of course, you can go up to 64. Default is 32, so you don't have to page around. Cool, so let's put in some snares as well. I might change the last step setting for this too. As you just saw there, I changed it before it got to the right place. So, oh, okay. It is still in sync, but if it wasn't in sync, let's say I did it to 11, and now we're not in phase with Ableton's transport anymore, right? Like these triggers aren't lining up as you would expect, which is cool, but maybe it's not what we want. So that's what the resets are for. We press it here and it'll be quantized to the bar. And now we're back in sync. Turning down here changes the velocity. So reducing it, or you can increase it. So if I want this first snare hit to only hit on the first cycle, out of 2, let's say, I would put 2 down here. Now it hit, and this time it's not. Yeah. So you can also see this green indicator here. That signifies that we have a trig condition set. It's done with RGB coloring. So if you open the info view and hover over, red equals probability, green equals trig condition, blue equals ratchet, and any combination of trig locks will be RGB color mixed. So yellow is probability and trig condition. Yeah, I'm gonna do the opposite for this one. So it fires on every second cycle out of 2. And so this one, I'm feeling super lazy. I'm gonna change the cycle to every 4. So I only have to do this. And I might remove these trig conditions. You could do this with the reset circuit over here, but I think we'll leave that to another video because it's a bit more advanced. Let's say I want to add, I don't know, like a little accent on here. But at the moment it's very straight timing, right? Like we're very much on the grid. If I wanted to push this back, that's when you would use micro timing. So now we're getting a swung feel, and that's why you can see this little pink indicator down here. But these steps are also firing every time. So perhaps you want to apply some probability to how often this accent step happens. So I'm going to reduce the probability. By default, every step happens 100% of the time, but you can reduce that to any point where you want. And maybe I add a couple more accents as well, just to prove a point. Set this one around 50. Set this one, I don't know, wherever. I also might swing this one back too. Or maybe even bring it forward. And now we've got some kind of galloping. kind of wonky actually, I kind of like that. At the moment we're running on Ableton's clock, but we can do a subdivision of that. So you can see the synced setting here, that indicates that we're running on Ableton's clock speed. But if I was to change that to 2/1, we would go at half the time of Ableton's clock. Just on this channel, by the way. So the kicks are still running, the hats are still running, but the snares are now going at half time. So we can switch back to regular timing. Those changes are quantized by this setting as well, so it won't change until the next bar if you have it there, or the next beat, or the next trig if you have it there. And if we want to go to half time, you would do 1 and 2, which sounds pretty strange, so let's not do that. Here, this is kind of the triggers settings, and then these are like the parameter ones. There is a little bit of overlap, but when in doubt, open the info view, hover over, and you'll get an explanation and a description. The way ratchets work it's dependent on the trigger length. So maybe I want these ratchets to happen over 2 and a bit steps. I would open that up and then increase the number of ratchets. Now that's pretty intense, so I would turn the velocity down a bit. And then you have more control over how those ratchets happen. First, the ramping is the velocity ramp. So now you can hear it's kind of fading in over the time of the ratchets, or it can fade out. Maybe more pronounced with more. Yeah. Cluster is how those ratchets are spread out over time, or clustered in time. So if you turn it up. So downwards, we'll start by spreading them out, and then they'll get tighter together, and then the opposite when you go the other way around. Yep, so that's ratchets. So if you click map, and then we drag over here, so the way it's set up is that that parameter will hold until the next trig. Now you could do it on a channel which doesn't have any trigs if you didn't want that behavior to have just a purely control data parameter locks, but for this purpose this is perfectly fine. Yeah, so that's parameter locks. If you obviously want to disable it, click this X button, and maybe you want to map, I don't know, the gravity. As I said, not very musical demos here, but hope you get a sense of the functionality. Engage the LFO for the automation recording, or we could do it manually. I guess we can take a look at both. And I'm just going to let it record. Of course, you can change the speed of the LFO with this dial. It can go up to like nearly noise-like behavior, or if we crank it down, we get these organic, undulating, sinusoidal wave shapes, which is perfect. So you don't have to mess around with pre-modulating it. It's just going to give you kind of what you want. This one, by the way, changes the depth of the LFO. So you can see that the wave is going higher and lower now. And I'm going to make the speed, yeah, sit around there so we can hear some pretty drastic LFO stuff. Now you can see down here that the waveform is steppy. That's because obviously at each step we've got different settings, right? So if you want it to all be smooth, that's where I would engage the all slide, and then the sliding is going to be dependent on the slide rise and fall settings that we have here, rise being here, fall being here. And if you don't have that set up, you can slide individual steps with the parameter slide, but you know, for recording automation, you probably just want an all on or all off for the simple purposes. which we're covering today. So that's that use recording and automation with the LFO. If you want to record automation with the dial, you want to disengage this, and basically this dial is, imagine it like a knob on a piece of gear. So we press the record button. You can see every step is now perfectly straight down the middle because that's where the setting is. But if I change it, so yeah, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You have full control over how you want the automation to behave. If I was to stick it back here, it would go to steppy. And then if I wanted one in particular to be like crazy high and slide that, I could. Or if I didn't want to slide that, I could. And of course you can apply this to all the steps. This can control the depth of the modulation after the fact. So here it's, let's say a factor of 1, how you recorded it in. Here is a factor of 2, which is double the modulation amount. So if we watch it down here, we're going all the way up to 100. But if I bring this down to where how I recorded it, it's a bit more subtle. You can drop it down to it not having any effect at all at halfway, and then the effect will be inverted to the same depth that you recorded it here. Obviously we're sat at 0, so it's not having an effect, but if I was to change that, you could hear. So yeah, it just gives you some and then we can obviously crank the scaling of that if I was to put it further up. It just gives you a bit more flexibility after you record the automation to play around with it. Another thing is the delay of the automation to the right. This will change how the phase of the automation relative to all your trigs and everything else running in the pattern. So again, just something else to play with. So you can now hear it's bringing out different parts of the terrible drum beat we've created. Yeah, so that's automation. So something that's important for the way MIDIseq is set up is the fact that you have 8 MIDI channels here and 8 parameters here and 64 steps here. Everything in the UI is kind of dependent on those 3 things. If I change to step 51, for example, now we're only seeing the second half of the pattern. Whereas if I go to 19, now we're seeing the first half of the pattern. If I go to parameter number 2, all these settings are now reflecting what parameter 2 is doing. So if I set it to backward, parameter 1 is on forward. I hope that makes sense. That's what the dynamic UI element is, routing MIDI to multiple places. So at the moment, we set it up with a drum rack on the same channel. As I say, the easiest way to get started, but in not too much time, you'll probably want to be routing MIDI to different places. And when that happens, that's why we've included this, the multi-channel MIDI filter, essentially. So you can see the different MIDI inputs that we're getting on multiple channels. You've got 1, 2, 3 there, which correspond to the drums. And because the filter's on and we don't have any channels selected, nothing's coming out. But if we were to enable that, now we're getting MIDI output for those channels that we're selecting. So it's a way of filtering down the output from MIDIseq. I'm not going to get into the boring reasons as to why. Basically, Ableton have a terrible MIDI routing setup. So if you try to do this with the I/O, you'll find that all the MIDI is summed to channel 1, which is obviously very annoying when you're trying to do stuff like this. Long known flaw. This is the solution, MIDI filter device. Essentially for this, I don't want any of the drum outputs coming in because I want to put a 303 on here, which I'm going to do now. Basic 303 bass. But if I was to turn the filter off, we're obviously going to get all those drum things coming through really loud, by the way. So hopefully that's better. Cool. So let's jump over here where we now have this terrible sequence. So for pitch stuff, you probably want to be in note mode so that this parameter lane changes the note of the MIDI output, as opposed to just changing some value that you would map to Ableton, right? So let's switch that to pitch 1, and maybe I want this held note to be higher, or oh no, let's do this one actually. Cool. And if we wanted to set up like a slide here, I would hold this and enable slide, but doesn't sound quite right. Like, it's not really sliding. The reason for that is that we need to enable in Wavetable our pitch bend settings. Each sampler or synth will be doing a different place, but in Wavetable, this is where you need to go. You need to go to the MIDI tab and then increase this to 48. And now it's sounding the way it's supposed to. The setting that you need to match up is down here. Octave range determines the range that you have in this dial. So if I turn that up, we've got more range. So if I go from lowest to highest between these two steps, that's now 2 octaves. You can transpose your channel with the bits we touched on before with the MIDI notes up here. And you can change the octave with this one. Ooh, squelchy. Nice. Yeah, let's map that. Alright. Acity. Cool, so I think that wraps up the getting started video. There's so much more, to be honest, but I think we'll leave the more advanced stuff for another video. As I say, the info view is definitely your best friend. Hover over everything and everything has its description. have a go, play around with yourself. The worst is you'll make some beats slightly better than this one. I can't imagine you could do much worse. So yeah, have fun with it, and catch you soon.